Hello, good day, and welcome to Alena Media TV News. I am Victoria, broadcasting from Canada, and these are the top stories for today news. U.S. expresses concern over South Sudan tension. Ethiopia war in Tigray risks wiping out countries of the world history. SFRC approves Ethiopia Peace and Stabilization Act of 2022 with overwhelming bipartisan support. Bringing you this in detail after the short break. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back from that short break. Now news in detail. U.S. expresses concern over South Sudan tension. The United States on Tuesday expressed concern over growing tension in South Sudan and called all parties to respect a 2018 peace agreement after the opposition withdrew from a body overseeing the process. The world's newest nation has struggled to draw a line under a 5-year civil war that ended in 2018 with former rival President Salva Kiir and his Vice President Riek Machar unable to agree on the implementation of the deal they signed. Earlier this month, Mansa Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition announced its withdrawal from a body overseeing peace process over unprovoked attack on its bases by its peace partner. The decision is the latest blow to the country's shaky prospect for stability, deepening fissures between factions loyal to Machar and Kiir. In a statement, U.S. State Department spokesman Ned Price deplored the recent clashes in Upper Nile State and the withdrawal from the body, which undermines the peace agreement. Washington also calls on Kiir and Machar to do their utmost to de-escalate tension, he continued, and that both sides bear responsibility for deteriorating situation. Neither have made good faith effort to implement provisions for revitalized peace agreement prices. Since achieving independence in 2011, South Sudan has spent almost half of its life as a nation of war. Almost 400,000 people died in the civil war before the Kiir and Machar signed a peace deal in 2018 and formed a unity government 2 years ago. Since then, the country has launched from crisis to crisis, battling flood and hunger, violent and political bickering as the promises of the peace agreement have failed to materialize. Moving on to the next story, Ethiopia war in Tigray risks wiping out centuries of the world's history. The human carnage and heritage destruction in Ethiopia Tigray region that began in November 2020 has been devastating. Thousands have been killed, millions displaced, and several historical monuments damaged by invading forces in the East African North. Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed launched a military campaign against the Tigray People Liberation Front on 4th November 2020 as troops from the Ethiopian military and Eritrea, as well as an paramilitary group, brutally attacked civilians. They have also destroyed religious, historical, and cultural sites of immense value. Some of the damages to the site has been documented through calls made by Tigray using satellite phones. The region heritage site have been deliberately targeted. To appreciate the weight of these attacks, the role and influence of the church in Ethiopia need to be understood. The church underpins historical and modern claims of political and military authority in Ethiopia. It has shaped community identity and informed cultural narrative. Therefore, the bombing and destruction of churches as well as other religious sites strikes at traditional power structure. The sites are cherished multifunctional gathering places and sacred spaces. Looting and attacking them is a grave dishonoring of cultural values. A report from the Tigray Orthodox Diocese 3 months into the war, February 2021, found 326 members of the priesthood had been killed. There's no clear data on how many members of the clergy have been killed since then, while at least 40 churches and monasteries have had general assessment of damages. The analysis found hundreds of such sites have been destroyed. Moving on to the last story, FRSC approved Ethiopian Peace and Stabilization Act of 2022 with overwhelming bipartisan support. The charge affairs at the Eritrean embassy in Kuwait, Mr. Himadi Yeshua met and held talks with Assistant Foreign Minister of Kuwait for African Affairs, Ambassador Ali Suleiman Al Saad, focusing on strengthening bilateral relations. At the meeting, Mr. Hamoud and Ambassador Ali Sulmani also highlighting on the overall progress of the bilateral relation between Eritrea and Kuwait held talks on investment opportunities and economic cooperation. Both sides also agreed in the implementation of the cooperation protocol when the two countries previously signed on various sectors, including education and health. The conflict in Ethiopia has shifted since we first introduced this important bill, but the core issues remain the same. This bill provides the tools to hold all parties to this conflict accountable for the many atrocities committed and a deadly humanitarian crisis. This legislation also focuses on the role of disinformation and foreign actors in this war, which have increased its length and persistence, said Ranking Member Rich. The unilateral humanitarian ceasefire announced by the government of Ethiopia last week is a welcome signal. However, humanitarian access remain at a stalemate. Not all parties to the conflict have signed on the ceasefire or agreed to come to the negotiation table. And the road to national reconciliation for Ethiopia is long. This legislation sends a strong message that Congress is still serious about accountability and resolving the conflict. This is where I end the news on Alena Media TV. I am Victoria, and thanks for watching.